falls in life. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are here our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are here our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. There comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by
I'm ReneMarie, and we're broadcasting a little bit different today because our executive technical producer in Long Island, Jim, was unable to join us this morning. He's going to be streaming the shows later on today, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to have two wonderful guests, and Carlota is really a gift, and we're so blessed to be able to hear her story and what she's working on. And of course, I'm going to let Judy have the privilege of reading a little bit of history about Carlota, and then we're going to talk to her. We're going to find out her story. And of course, once Judy reads her press introduction, we're going to go into a little bit about 9/11 because I don't think it would be right of us not to just acknowledge that 9/11 did happen, and this was a 20th year reunion, and we just really want to talk about where we were and the memories about that. And I'm going to read again something that I found on Facebook, which really does share an important moment in time about 9/11. So thank you so much both for joining me. Thank you, Judy, as always, for doing a wonderful job putting two wonderful shows together. Our first show with Amy was incredible, and the work we're going to do with her. But talk a little bit about Carlota, if you don't mind.
I'd like to welcome ReneMarie, Language of Love Foundation, and ReneMarie Stroke of Luck, together with Village Connection Rockstar Studios, would like to introduce to you and talk to you about our featured guest this afternoon, Carlota Schoolman, Executive Director of International Aphasia Movement, which is IAM. IAM offers free speech and language therapy to anyone with aphasia, a disability caused by a stroke, traumatic brain injury, or any kind of brain injury. People with aphasia can have problems speaking, understanding, reading, writing, using numbers, or any combination of those and other difficulties. In IAM, people with aphasia work with speech pathologists and others with aphasia to improve their ability to speak and regain their ability to live their lives with confidence. Carlota herself suffered a traumatic brain injury in March of 2009, causing aphasia. She was involved with emotional regulation and speech language therapy for 5 years and began attending the International Aphasia Movement group's speech therapy immediately after her injury. She was grateful for her recovery by 2014 and received the title of Executive Director of the International Aphasia Movement in 2015. And as director, she maintains IAM's mission of free speech and language therapy for anyone with aphasia. Carlota works closely with licensed speech-language pathologists, student clinicians, and administrative volunteers. Participants, people with aphasia, and their co-survivors, family and friends of those who have aphasia. She maintains communication with participants who have all levels of aphasia and is helping IAM grow in order to offer free therapy to more people with aphasia. IAM group programs have grown from 15 participants in New York City to 75 national and international participants when on Zoom. 15 volunteer SLPs and many student offer programs every other Monday with small groups in English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. Carlota Schoolman's background has been working with contemporary artists in video, music, and dance. She was producer of videos made by artists from 1970 to 2010, including Robert Ashley's Perfect Lives, an opera for television, works by Richard Serra, Nancy Holt, Tricia Brown, and many others. Video curator at the Kitchen, responsible for monthly expositions, evening performances, and recordings from 1973 to 1985. Co-founder Providence Productions International with Mary Griffin from 1992 to present. Carlota has worked together with Mary, commissioning, producing, publicizing, and presenting new work by contemporary composer, video artists, and choreographers. Her most recent work with Providence Productions was with Mary Griffin, writer and video artist, and Blue Jean Tyranny composer on Recollections, Songs from Aphasia. So let's welcome Carlota Schoolman.
Carlota, you have a wonderful, I said it before, I love your history. And I can't wait to get into, because I mean, I'm a musician as well, and I sing, and I love like music, and the arts are just, it really is an important world. It just, to me, it's just so important to have.
And music and memory are very important for recovery, for stroke and aphasia patients, as well as other illnesses.
Yeah, I agree. But let's, before we get on the journey with all that, let's talk a little bit about September 11th, and tell us if that's okay with you, Carlota, to share where you were on that day and your thoughts about it.
I was at home on Worcester Street, and my husband was at work, sort of around the corner. And, like everybody else, I heard a plane go by, and it sounded awfully close. And I forgot to say, it was a beautiful fall day. So I was spending a lot of time looking out the window.
That's what they said. They said it was magnificent out, like it was yesterday.
It was like a real
almost
fall.
like a summer day or a
no, it was like
summer.
a fall day, because there was nothing in the sky blocking anything. I don't know what the word is.
It was beautiful.
It was really gorgeous, and no humidity, blocking the vision. It was just a big, bright blue sky. And I don't think I saw the plane go by, but I had the radio on, and the person on the radio said, we were just in a meeting, and we looked out the window because we heard this airplane and we saw it crash into one of the buildings at the World Trade Center. And it was really interesting. You know, they had all a different perception. A small plane, a big plane, you know, all kinds of trying to figure out how in the world that had happened. And, you know, then a little while later, when they saw the second plane, they knew that it wasn't a small plane that had gone astray. And so then I looked out the window and I could see a little bit of what was going on. Because we're pretty close. Oh, I was so alarmed, you know, you can imagine.
Yeah, it was almost like a shock. Like it was a shock because nobody ever running into the World Trade Center, like, you know, a plane, you could see it like, you know, maybe the first one was, it was an accident. You know, that a plane lost control and it wound up there. But the second one was like.
Right. And my husband had you know, we kept speaking on the phone and I kept thinking, I'll go downstairs because I saw that almost all of my neighbors were downstairs on the sidewalk, you know, looking up. They could see it a lot more than I could. And I was scared, you know, I didn't want to go down. I didn't want to take my dog down. And
so let me understand something, because where are you in comparison to the World Trade Center?
Well, it's above, we live above Canal Street. We live at the top of Soho. So, you know, Canal Street was considered the spot.
Right.
Like if you were got sick or whatever, and you wanted help, you had to be have been below Canal Street.
Okay.
So I don't know how many miles it is. Not very many. We can see the new one too. You know, we can stand out. And oh my God! Once people, you know, like a week after or less than a week after, we live on Worcester Street and that's a north-south street. So it looks directly out the window. It was like, you know, I could see it if I leaned forward and looked out the window, but he saw the horrible things. My husband saw the horrible things.
Where was your husband at that time?
He was at work and he had a straight window. He didn't have to look around the corner. So he saw, you know, just awful things and people losing their lives.
Wow. It was surreal. It was surreal.
It was.
And how do you think it changed your perception on life? I mean, I'm just meeting you now, so I don't know your perception on life prior. It could have been right in line, but did it change your perception on life?
Gosh, I don't think I know the answer to that. I'd have to think about that.
Maybe it's the way you always lived anyway, you know?
Yeah, living in Manhattan.
Yeah.
You know, it's just such a, I don't know exactly how to say it, but, you know, I knew just very few people who were in the buildings. And it was so sort of amazing to think about, like one friend, she was late for work, you know, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to her.
Yeah.
You know, because she wasn't in the building, and another friend was in the building, but she had been there for the previous attack some years earlier, and so, you know, people were getting instructions to stay where they were.
Right.
And she said, no way. No way. And she said to all the people around her, grab your bags and we have to get out of here immediately. And they got on the last elevator.
Oh my God.
That went down, and then they ran. So, it's just such an example of how you never know what's going to happen.
No,
You just never know. And you wonder, like, how did that person get so lucky? And how did that person have to go?
well, it's funny you should talk about somebody getting lucky, because let's hear from Judy about her story with her husband, because she had this burning, her husband was supposed to be in that building on that day.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
So tell Carlota your story.
My husband's electrician with Local 3, and he had worked on that building from the very beginning. So he had a passion to work there. And on this particular weekend before 9/11, he was in the building getting the pass, fingerprints, whatever, because they were trying to be so careful. And he told me over the weekend that he was going to be working at the Trade Center in the North Building on the 106th floor as a foreman. Now, as a foreman, he would be leaving the house at 4:30 in the morning, and maybe I'd get lucky and he'd be home by 2 in the morning. And my dad had just passed from a hemorrhagic stroke, and I said, this is not going to work. Even though I go to work, there's going to be many hours that I'm going to be home and feeling vulnerable, and I wish you would not take that position at this time. And he kept saying that if he didn't take the job, the union would either put him out of work for 6 weeks or give him a terrible job to go to.
Mm.
And we continued to talk about it right into Monday morning, where I said, okay, the decision's got to be made, and I'm going to give you an ultimatum. It's either the job or the marriage, decide. And he was lucky enough to decide, because
He was lucky enough to choose the marriage.
because he wouldn't be here. Everybody that he was going to be working with passed. And there were forces that were sending him to the building prior to that weekend. And even the same day after, on Monday, 9/11, when he went to the new job and he arrived, they said the last 10 men have to go to the World Trade Building. He said, wow, wait, I was just supposed to be there. And they said, no, the foreman on that job said, no, we need Andrew here, but everybody else go. And those men probably were saved because they probably went to breakfast before going to the building. So, but everybody he was going to work with died.
Wow. Why were you trying to convince him not to go? What was
Because my
the
father
concern?
had just passed from a hemorrhagic stroke, and it was very recent, and I didn't want to be alone all those hours when I came home from work. It didn't matter, well, in the late morning or the morning when I go to work, but it would start affecting me about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I wouldn't see him till 2 in the morning.
I see.
I think it was something deeper. I think it was an instinctive passion, like, because when even with me, when I get this urgency in me to do something, and I don't even know why I'm doing it, something turns out that later on that's the reason that you had this urgency in you to not.
There was one thing that back in 1993 when they had the first attack, I said, I'd prefer that you wouldn't work in that building.
Oh, right.
But he kept working in the building. He said, no, they are taking enormous precautions, and you're just worried about nothing.
Wow.
What about you, Renee? Where were you?
I was at Mary Help of Christians. I was food service director for a Catholic high school by me. I worked for Pumptonium Food Service, who took care of all the schools in the state they took care of. And I remember actually, for some reason, I went up to the Virgin Mary at Mary Help of Christians. And that's where I started hearing the rumblings about it. And I was praying for it. And then we had to navigate what we were going to do to support the children in the schools, because a lot of their parents worked in New York City, because we're 15 minutes out of New York City. So my children were with my father, so they were safe, and I just did my work. But I vividly remember passing a main restaurant in Hawthorne, Puzo's, that used to be on a main road. I vividly remember being right there and hearing God say to me, I want you to do an ecumenical service for everybody. So I made a turn and went to the mayor in town and started navigating, and he said, let's go. And then I went to my church pastor, because we have a school and we have a big playground. So we did an ecumenical service on the playground, and it was magical. It was really magical, the way everybody just gathered around, and we had candles, and we lit candles and we held them, and everybody prayed and sang, and it was really a moment in time. And we actually did it 1 year later at the year anniversary. But that's that. I love to bring people together. That's what one of my purposes in life, to spread love and bring people together. And that brings me to what I saw, this post I saw on Facebook, which is really a wonderful post. It says, breaking: the best way we could ever honor those lost on 9/11 is to live each day like September 12th. There is no race, gender, or political side. In the end, the only thing that matters is each other. Americans first, America's forever. So, and really I really remember everybody just wanting to help. They said they had so much waters and so much items in the city that they were overwhelmed with items, and there was so much goodness. There was so much goodness during this horrific time. And it really, it's so sad. It was so sad that it takes something so horrific to bring the goodness out in people. And I always hear God saying to me, and I heard it specifically when that happened, was you always have to remind people of this moment, to bring them back to that moment, so that they live their lives this way, so that they're not going back. Yes, we can get off track, we can argue, we can have disagreements, but let's do it respectfully. And it's so sad that the whole world is, a little crazed and off balance right now. And that was one of the things about the pandemic, when we were going through the pandemic, and we're still going through it. But initially, it was funny. We were all told to stay back, stay in our place, but we were united in the common cause. And the common cause was for healing, to keep people safe. It's just, that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, is just uniting people and bringing people together. So it's funny that, I laugh at the way God works, right? Because I wasn't able to find I Hope You Dance to open the show. So I opened it from a distance, right? And in that song, From a Distance, it talks about, like, I don't understand the fighting. I don't understand the wars. We're all people. Let's be people. Let's be in harmony. And I love the way God works, and he's so funny. So it was. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing your stories. They're powerful. Everybody has a story about, even Amy, who was in Idaho, right? Or in Arizona when it happened before. She had a story about it. So it was a moment in time, So let's get to Carlota. I want to hear your bio, what you used to do. I am very drawn to your working with contemporary artists in video, music, and dance, and producer of music and producer of operas as well. My mom is an opera singer. Mayra Parado, she that she mastered at Juilliard, and she sang around the world, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, so you did operas?
Well, I worked on that one piece, and it's one of the more unusual operas that is probably in the world. A very amazing composer, Robert Ashley, and I don't think I can describe it well, other than
Well, what's the name of it?
it's called Perfect Lives.
Perfect Lives. I'll Google it. I'll look it up.
Yeah. It was a kind of American story expressed over these 4 episodes, and it was commissioned by the organization I worked for, which is called The Kitchen in Manhattan, and we let's see. The piece went, that particular piece went to a lot of places in Europe and elsewhere, and it was a brand new piece, so it was developed during these performances that were taking place around Europe and around Manhattan. And around the States. And the kitchen where I worked
What is the kitchen? What is the kitchen?
It's very, if you don't know it, you don't know it, because this isn't the kind of work that you follow. Is extremely new. Some of it very eccentric. What does Jim Staley call it? Not difficult, not at all difficult, but
Is it music involved, or is it
performances of contemporary composers
okay?
and choreographers, and my particular field was video. I was the video director, and that was during the 70s. At a time when especially downtown performances were very, oh God, I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I would have, I would have gotten some words. I would have gotten some words together.
And there's no need to pressure yourself. We really just wanted to know your path, like, what you were doing prior to your traumatic brain injury, to set the groundwork that in life, you could be living the highest of highs, and you probably were. You love that field. You love to direct, and you love videos, and you love the entertainment world. And, you're living in Manhattan. People were very jealous of you living in Manhattan. And I'm just saying.
Yes. Yeah, in the 70s, the work was very open, and artists were very friendly to each other. And whenever we had a performance of a new piece by a choreographer, all the other choreographers came. Wow. And likewise, in the other disciplines. And it was at a time when video had for the first time a camera and a deck that was affordable and made by Sony. And so all of a sudden, people who were interested in movies and television had an opportunity to do their own work. Previous to that, if you wanted to make a video tape, you had to go to a professional studio, and it was this huge piece of equipment and a big union. And it was, and expensive, very expensive. And instead, all of a sudden, people could get what's called a porta pack, and just have something over your shoulder. The deck's down around your hip, and the camera also had a thing that picks up the sound.
Audio.
Yeah, it had a. What do you call that? The thing you talk into. Yeah, the camera, thanks. The camera had a mic. So you could do pretty much whatever you want. And
So I have a question for you though. Like, what was your upbringing that you got into that field? Like, what got you into that field?
Well, I was always very interested in art and particularly in music. And I was always sort of hooked on television, as a child. So all of a sudden there was this opportunity. I had studied art history somewhat, and a close friend who was actually a teacher in college got very involved with this early phase of video. And he was up in SUNY Binghamton, and he came down and he loaned Jamie, my husband, and me a porta-pack, one of the earliest versions of a porta-pack. And I was just, fascinated. And I started inviting artists to come over to our place if they wanted to, try out this new way of working. Wow. And a lot of people came. And, my interests in, all of a sudden I had a little production company, and very little, and making a lot of work by visual artists who I would call people because I knew that person. In this case, it was Richard Serra, who was a very well-known sculptor. But I knew that he was very interested in film and that he had actually made a 16 millimeter film, more than one. And so I contacted him. I contacted all these people I didn't know. I didn't know them at all.
Well, that's the only way you get them.
I was in my 20s, it's like nothing. I wasn't concerned about that. And, he came over, and I worked with him on a number of tapes. And after a while, cable television had just opened up public access, was only barely just started itself, and had opened up public access. And so I started showing artists' work on public access, and Soho didn't have any cable at that time. All the cable was all uptown or midtown. So except for a few bars that had a system set up where they could show the sports. And so I approached a number of them, especially one in my neighborhood. And so we started showing these videotapes in a neighborhood where everybody lived, all the artists lived at that time. Wow. And other people, and we would all sit there and watch these things that people were making. And at some point, and the kitchen was around the corner, and they had started as an organization to work with video artists who were just, beginning to have the opportunity to make tapes.
Wow. And what project were you working on in 2009, right before your traumatic brain injury?
I was working with, excuse me.
Okay.
I was working with Mary Griffin, and I think what we were doing at that, we had just finished a project that we had done for several years in Philadelphia, where we were commissioning artists to make new pieces and then setting up performance areas. And we had just finished that. We had been doing it for about 3 years. And so after that, we were kind of producing one thing at a time, just on our own. In Philly, we were working with Tyler School of Art, which is part of Temple University. I think that's what I was doing. And that particular night, I had been to see a movie with a friend, and I was walking home, and I decided to go into I don't want to say the name of the store.
No, a store.
I had decided to go into a store. It was 11 o'clock at night. It was 10 to 11. They were closing at 11. And my friend had gone on the subway and I was going to walk home. That's where I got injured. I wanted to buy a particular kind of, I told you before, what's it called?
Tonic water?
Tonic water. That I liked very much. And it was in a 6-pack and it was on the top shelf. And I could reach it, but I couldn't see that behind it, there was another 6-pack that was somehow attached to it. And so when I removed it from the shelf, the one that was invisible to me hit me oddly. You know, it hit me, I don't know.
And that's so amazing that just a general go into a store and grabbing a tonic water
right
off a shelf. I mean, we're always grabbing for things and reaching for things, right? So it hit you. And then what happened afterwards? Because I believe you said you didn't feel, you felt, you just got hit,
Right. And I felt sort of, off base, the way you do what, like when you fall, you can feel sort of off base. And since it was my head, I was particularly like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. But
and you were by yourself. Nobody else knew that you had gotten hit?
Well, the staff came running over.
Okay.
And they asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital, and I said, I want to go home. So they put me in a taxi, and I called my husband and I said, could you wake up? I'm going to need you to put a bandage on my head, because I didn't know it was bleeding,
Right.
And
was it plastic container or was it a bottle?
Not plastic.
A can?
Yeah, it was a 6-pack of cans.
When I think of tonic water,
I know.
think of a quart, right? That makes a big difference, because those cans coming down and hitting you, it's like that's a clunk on the head.
Right.
That's a clunk on the head.
And when it hit me, I was shocked, of course, and I had a can in one hand, and I knew I had gotten hit, and I looked down on the floor, and there was another can on the floor. And I sort of screamed out, like, where did that come from?
Right.
So a few days later, I told my husband, he insisted that I go to have a CAT scan,
Right.
which I did the day after it happened. And the CAT scan came out fine. They said, oh, just take some Tylenol.
Wow.
You're fine. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure? And, they said, yeah.
Were you feeling off balance still a little bit?
I was, yeah. So I went home and, tried to feel like things were okay. And I had invited some friends to come over for dinner. And I made just, very simple. I had made some pasta. And I thought to myself, this tastes disgusting. How could I possibly have made pasta that tastes so weird?
Right.
And a few months later, I asked them, did that taste weird to you? And they said, no, not at all. So, I was already starting to be off base in a number of ways. And then 3 days after the event, I wasn't feeling well, and I told my husband, I don't feel so good, I'm going to go lie down. And he was on his way to come out to Long Island, actually. And he was all ready to go, and he felt fine about going because the hospital had said that I was okay. And but heard him, getting his suitcase by the door. And I said, could you come in here for a minute?
Wow. Wow.
And he came in and, toured that I was like, I couldn't speak anymore. I couldn't find my words anymore.
Wow.
And I really was feeling very strange. So he did all the things that you do when, who's the president?
Right.
Where do
Right.
you
All that
live?
information you should be aware of if you're conscious.
And I couldn't answer any of them.
Wow.
I was trying to find the words and I just couldn't answer any of them. So he said, I'm going to call 911. And I said, oh, good. Because I knew that something was not right.
Oh, good.
And the guys came from the fire department. And they drove me very fast, apparently. I wasn't conscious.
So it wasn't the ambulance, it was the firemen?
What is it? There's sometimes it was an ambulance. It wasn't a fire truck. It was an ambulance of some kind, but in Manhattan, sometimes when you call 911, you get the fire department and sometimes you get people from a hospital.
Yeah.
think that's how-
They're working as a team, whoever's available and closest to a situation.
Right.
That's how they navigate it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And apparently my husband, said, pedal to the metal, drive fast.
Yeah.
And the hospital.
So how did the MRI miss it? Like, how did the MRI not see
No, it's a
it?
CAT scan.
Like, the CAT scan. I'm sorry, the CAT scan. Yeah.
It was a slow bleed. And that's not uncommon. And, I have a friend who had an accident when he fell off his bike and he hit his head. And the hospital, this was in Seattle, the hospital kept him in there for 4 days just to make sure there wasn't a bleed.
Yeah. That was.
Can I ask a question? Was it a hemorrhagic stroke?
It was
Was it a hemorrhagic bleed?
It was a traumatic brain injury, and the what do they call it? I can't think of what it's called.
The traumatic brain. You can't think of
The name of the name of that kind of a bleed.
That's okay. We
Okay.
yeah.
But it was the kind of bleed that ruins your brain, and it developed very slowly. But when I got to the hospital, they, quickly did another series of tests, and they told my husband, she has 45 minutes. Ooh, I'm going to cry. She has 45 minutes. We have to do it.
Or you have to.
We have to do the surgery immediately, or, she'll be a finished item.
Wow.
He turned to, this is all he told me, I was not conscious. And he told me afterwards that he asked one of the side doctors, he said, shouldn't I get a second opinion before I let her go off to have her brain cut open? And the other doctor said, well, he's the head of the department. He's the primary surgeon here. So, you have to do what he says. So, I had the excitement of losing a little bit of my brain. I mean, he thought it was like practically nothing. He said, oh, it's such a small thing. And, everybody else, all the other doctors I showed it to were like,
well, you're a miracle.
Definitely.
To just stop and breathe a little, for everybody to breathe a little bit, to say, like, you have had some of your brain removed. And you're still interacting with us. Nobody would know that you've had this situation by looking at you. Not even by speaking with you. Some people speak slow, like Amy on the last show. She's from Idaho. So she has a natural tendency to speak slow. So yeah. Wait until you see the show. I know you want to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
But you can't even like tell you've had so that is a great testimony to you and to your doctors and to your husband who made that.
Right.
And when I was speaking to you the first time on the phone, I had no idea that you had suffered that.
Yeah. I still have plenty of aphasia, but it's a very small amount compared to what people have to go through. And it doesn't show all the time. So, it's sort of confusing to my friends and, to people I'm speaking to. Sometimes I have to tell somebody that I'm talking to who I don't know that I have aphasia, so please, bear with me, or you might have to help me find some words or whatever. I tell them, and other times I don't have to.
Yeah. And when you say to people about aphasia, do they understand what the terminology means? Or do you have to describe it to them more in depth?
I would say 99% of the time people don't have any knowledge of aphasia. I certainly didn't.
Mhm.
And the way I got into IM was that while I was, still kind of messed up and part of my hair, I didn't look so good. And I didn't, I was at that point, I really was having a terribly difficult time speaking. And one day, Harvey Alter came into my room, and my husband was there at the time. And he started telling Jamie that there was a program that it met downstairs in that hospital. At that time, it was, I think, every Monday and another time of the week, and that they had free therapy, and that she needs us, and, you should make sure she comes. I, of course, didn't hear any of this conversation. I was still pretty, out of it.
Tell us what's his name? Harvey, what's his last name?
Alter.
Because I saw a video that you sent to me.
Oh, did you see it? Great.
Yes. He is the founder.
Yes, he and his partner, Mike Young, founded it. And they founded it because he had a very serious kind of stroke. I don't know what it's called, but, at first he was taught the way people sometimes have to just talk with their eyes, and it's all about yes and no.
Right.
And it took quite a few years for him to regain his speech. And you probably noticed the unusual way his speech sounds.
Yes.
And when he was asked, he used to go, when he was going to the hospital for therapy, he would always stop for a cup of coffee at this bodega across the street from the hospital. And one day the person there, oh, you heard this in the tape. One day the person there said, where are you from? We don't recognize your accent. And he said, I'm from the land of aphasia. It's over there in Latin America, across from something or other.
I never heard that. That's funny.
What I loved is his presence, right?
Yeah.
When
He's special.
Right. He's very special. I'd love to get him on the show.
No,
I will work on it.
Yeah.
he's no longer alive. That's why I have my
Oh, that's why.
Yes, when he was dying, he had a terminal illness, that happened all of a sudden. And I had begun to assist him once I got a little better. I would go to all these programs that IM was giving, on a Saturday and on a Monday and on another day of the week. And I looked around and said, nobody's helping this guy. He's doing everything by himself. He brings a meal for everybody.
Right.
He gives out a calendar, and he organizes these meetings. And so I started to assist him, and we got to, know each other quite well. And so when he knew that he was leaving the planet, he asked me if I would take on his role.
Wow.
And
very powerful, and really a compliment to the work you've done and the successful recovery that you have had.
Yeah. he was a really special person. He got better through a musical, yes, it was an honor to be asked to take that on. It was, you know, it's like, really?
Yeah, yeah.
But it made a lot of sense because I had become very close to the program, you
Yeah.
know, no, and his and Mike's point of view was that uh, always the director of the organization should be somebody with aphasia, because his point of view was that people with aphasia don't have any rights for their own therapy,
Right.
or
Right.
their own lives, and
They don't understand it, because you can be medical, you could be somebody medical who has studied it, but unless you've experienced it and unless you've walked that walk, you can't tell me that you feel it, you understand it, you've experienced it.
Right.
You know, because I don't know if you know, but I had aphasia, you know, when I suffered my stroke over 30 years.
And when was that?
In 1989, I suffered a major stroke. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I had aphasia. Yeah. So I get it. Like, and I was saying, I guess I was on the last show, that once in a while, especially when I get tired, I'm no good for anybody, you know, but a confidant of mine, Dominic Cordelesa, helped me put the tools in my belt to navigate through that, and to just say to people, or to just not deal with things at that particular time when I can't process or think. And I still get it. I still get it. But I'm aware. I think the knowledge that I always try to bring to people who have suffered a stroke or a brain injury when they're dealing with aphasia is they have to become aware of the differences in how they're navigating or they're talking, right? Like, you're aware when you can't think of a word. Because back when I really was suffering with aphasia, I think one of the things that would affect me most is my anxiety for not being able to process or think of the word. And that wouldn't help me in trying to figure it out. So you need to give people the time and the space and the freedom to be able to work through things at their own pace. And I'm writing another book called You Need to Love Them Through It. That's what you need to do, because loving them through it helps them with that security and that trust and the safe feeling that you need to have when you're experiencing aphasia. So I think it's really important. And one of the missions that I have in my personal life is trying to understand or help the world connect both sides. Like, us as aphasia survivors and patients are here, and then we have the medical field here. And how do we connect both of those so that we could understand, we can help our patients, our family members, our aphasia family members understand that they have to do the work, and that they need to become aware of it, that trigger that of awareness in it, because the doctors can't do that for us. They can't input that.
Excuse me.
That's okay. So that's like one of the things that I'm really trying to, and that's why I enjoy talking to different people, because it's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out,
Right. Do you still have problem with one of your arms?
Oh yeah. My whole right.
I just saw that.
Yeah. My whole right side is off balance, but that doesn't affect me. I mean, after
we get used to these things.
Yeah. It's just who I am now. It's who I am. I was telling Mark, I was on the phone, I was on a video with Mark McEwen yesterday. Do you know Mark McEwen? You should know Mark McEwen if you're in the industry. He used to be an A-liner Google him later on, but he was on CBS as a weathercaster, and he was also in the entertainment field. So he interviewed the world, doctors, presidents, the A-liners, he's hung around with everybody. He's been up there. So, and I was saying to him, he lives in Florida. So I was saying to him, like I love that warm weather, because the warm weather actually softens my body and my muscles so that I could, because now I'm a little bit cold. So my arm is like stiff, and, so anyway.
Right. It's a lot to get used to. Whatever, there are so many different kinds of strokes and other kinds of brain injuries, and it depends on what kind of a stroke it was, or what kind of a brain injury, and which part of your brain it hit. That was, that's one of the things that I really like about IM. The program is organized so that at the beginning of the programs are a little less than 2 hours, even on Zoom, and people can deal with that amount of time because we move around from one thing to another, and people become very attached to the program. And one of the reasons that is we start all together. Now that we're on Zoom, we have at least 75 people. And so that's one very big group. But, that part of the program lasts maybe 10 minutes, and it has announcements, and people hear the next part of the schedule. And maybe some people have something, some of the people with aphasia have something to say.
Right.
And then we break up into small groups. And the small groups are anywhere between 3 and 7 people usually. And so one of the things that I think people get a lot from is learning you spend a lot of time with other people who have aphasia.
Right.
And you see how people are learning to understand what their problems are, or they already know what their problems are, but they're not embarrassed to show them, to show the problems, because everybody in the room has some version of aphasia. And the speech pathologists are there, and of course they offer a huge amount of therapy, but also you have 3 or 7 other people, and you're practicing for a whole hour.
Yep.
And it's an interesting kind of practice. One group is reading books or articles and talking about them, and another group can't read very well, but they really want to read, and so they're practicing and learning to read again. And I think that's why people love the program. Plus, it's a way to develop a relationship with a lot of people. When we met in person, people would meet each other and spend time together outside of the programs. And now they meet each other and they spend 2 hours together on Zoom. And it's very helpful.
Yeah, what I think I'm grasping from what you're saying is it's almost like, you exercise, when you're home, you don't exercise by yourself so well.
Right.
But when you go to the gym or you're in a group, you kind of like do it without even knowing you're doing it. You're kind of enjoying doing it. So the fact that, people are reading magazines or reading articles or singing or whatever they're doing together, they're enjoying their time, and they're kind of practicing without even knowing that they're bettering themselves. They're bettering themselves.
Right.
So,
and it's very nice. We now have, of course, we've always had program groups in English, game group, 2 reading groups, finding words group, group for people who have a terrible time speaking, can't say their names, and really they're and some of them have had it for quite a few years. But what was I going to tell you about that? Oh yeah, so now we have all of those. Well, we have all the programs that I just told you about, half of
Right.
in English, and then we also have a program in Spanish and a program in Mandarin and Cantonese.
Wow.
And for a while, we had another one of the Chinese languages because there was we call the people who have aphasia participant. There was a participant who needed therapy, and we found somebody. We happened to know somebody who spoke her version of Chinese. And it's so rewarding to see people improve. That, like you were talking about doctors, we were talking about doctors before. Doctors, even today, they don't tell you about, the different pathways and how you can learn to find a different way to a word that you used to know, but now that part of your brain is damaged, and so you find a pathway around it. My surgeon didn't tell me about that. My doctors didn't tell me about that. What they said was, you'll improve after about 3 months, and then that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life.
They all say that. They all say that. They said that with my dad as well.
Yeah.
And it's not true, because if you work at it, you can really develop in many areas. You just have to have the therapies available, and you have to have the money to pay for them.
Well, that's another thing that's very important about IM. All the programs are free. Nothing costs anything. And that's why the way Harvey and Mike were determined to set it up, having, had to go for therapy for such a very long time before he could, be from the country of aphasia and say that.
And while we're talking about that, I know while I was doing my work before, you were talking about a benefit you're having soon.
Oh, yes. Now, when Harvey and Mike ran the program, it was smaller. It was big in concept, but it had fewer people, and so it needed fewer volunteers. Program has always had volunteer speech pathologists. But now that we're so much bigger, there are certain things that we need a salary for. It can be a small salary, but it's too many hours for somebody to spend to not have some financial support behind it. And also we are continuously in the process of expanding the number of people with aphasia and growing the program in many different ways. Expanding the number of people with aphasia who want and need therapy so that they can join us. And all of these things cost some money. And that's kind of new for IM. And so we've started to, fundraise and have benefits. And this next benefit that we're having next month, it's on the 11th. It's a Monday of I have a lot of trouble with October. Yeah. It's on the 11th of October.
Which is Columbus Day.
Yeah. And Indigenous Peoples Day now. It's both.
Oh.
Both. So there's going to be a lot of prizes. The biggest prize is going to be a brand new iPad. And, we get support from Trader Joe's, and they give us, have in the past given us $55 gift cards, and, other restaurants, and somebody had a huge TV that they hadn't opened from the box, and, like a big one. And she offered that as a prize. So the benefits are fun in that way. There are things that you do to win your prize. But one of the most important things about the benefit is that we include a lot of short videotapes of people talking about their aphasia, how it happened, how they live with it, how their private therapy has helped them, and particularly how the group therapy has helped them. And so and then some people are going to sing something, and I find the videos being just fantastic. Everybody has a story. I think you have that on your website. Everybody has a story, and they're all really interesting.
It's so funny because I just, we only have a few minutes left, but I just received a video testimony, and Judy didn't even see it yet, from a stroke gentleman that had what's it called? A minor stroke. And the testimonial is perfect.
You talking about Michael?
Art
Art.
did a video because he gave his experience, and then he spoke about what, without even knowing like why we called it the Language of Love Foundation and Telethon, because love is the answer. You have to have love in your life. And he just tied everything together so well. And I don't know if you know, but we're having our annual telethon on October 3rd. And this is our 7th annual telethon.
Wow.
And yeah, we've been, because I love, when I was young, I used to watch Jerry Lewis. So, you know, to me, music and entertainment is the key to people helping you and sponsoring you, and just, you know, and just an annual telethon, you know, music is so important in my life. Anyway, so, you know, he just, I cannot wait to show that testimonial. I cannot wait to show that, because he just tied everything in together. So I get it, like what you're talking about, because it's not us saying, we need money, could you help us? Because, you know, operational costs for any organization, you do it via Zoom, who's going to pay for the Zoom? You know what I'm saying? You have to pay for insurance for the foundation. You know, you need to have your members protected by something, because not for nothing, but if I had a choice, I wouldn't want insurance for our foundation. But it's not fair to Judy or to somebody else to put their homes on the line to work, you know, to work for us. So we have to. So I get that there's a lot of operational costs to run any organization, you know. So how do they help your cause? How do they get involved with your fundraiser?
I think moving away from the financial part for a minute, I think the kinds of events that we've been holding, a lot of the event is about introducing people to aphasia, right? Because a lot of people who come to these events don't know anything about it. Even the family members, you know, really appreciate learning more, but all the people that the family members invite and all the people that the participants invite, they don't know hardly anything. My friends, you know, I invite a whole bunch of my friends, and, you know, she has aphasia. Now, what is that again? You know, so that's a lot of the purpose, is to spread the word, you know, and you know how important that is.
Oh my gosh.
And then people contribute, you know, people who can, they contribute, and that helps us.
Can you see it on Zoom? Can you see the October 11th?
Yes, it is. It is on. It is on Zoom.
How do you do it? Is it on Facebook?
No, well, it will be on Facebook, because we now have a sort of active Facebook account, and it'll be on lots of places, and you know, people invite others, and you know, we'll probably upgrade our Zoom so that we can hold 1,000 people instead of 100 or less,
right?
what was I going to tell you?
Where do they find the link for, where can they register for this?
Thank you for asking. That's what I was going to try and remember to say. The best way to sign up is to find the information on the Facebook account, or we mail it out to hundreds of people, and people invite their friends, and there's a place to click.
So you are saying that they should go to International Aphasia Movement, and when they get on the site, they will see everything about the benefit.
Yes, that's the first thing on this. Thank you. That's the first thing on the site right now. And you had mentioned that you could put it on your website. You could put that link on your website. So we, of course, want more people, to know about it, and that will be very helpful.
Well, I will tell you that I hope that one day we will get enough financial aid to be able to help you as well.
No, thank you.
Because that's, that is our goal and objective, to work together.
Yeah, thank you.
Right now we're not getting enough money. I mean, could be because of the pandemic and people out of jobs, and and so we're just keep going and going and going. But if we ever do get enough money, we would love to help you in some way.
Oh, thank you. What a nice thought.
You're very welcome. You're very
What a
welcome.
very nice thought. Thank you.
So we've been on for over an hour.
Whoop.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Can you edit?
Yeah. What's that?
Can you edit?
Yeah. No. Don't worry about it. But so I want to give you the last few moments to round up the show, and to what would be some of the 3 most important factors that you would want people to take away from this show?
Well, I think that the participants, the people with aphasia, and the co-survivors who have been, we call them co-survivors because they've been affected too. Their lives have changed also. Want people to know that improvement, if people are dedicated, if they want to improve, and if they want to have therapy, and if they want opportunities to practice, people get better. People who they might not get 100% better, but I know several people who, when I first met them, they could not say their names. It was, one was a doctor, and one was a this, and one was a that, couldn't say their names. And after a certain amount of time, now they can all say their names. Somebody the other day was saying that they had wanted to get their reading back. They were a reader and they couldn't read. I couldn't read for a year at least. Now they can read by themselves without help. So I want people to know that it's possible to improve, and that it's not just a 3-month period. It can be like, we have people in the program who've been coming. Well, I started coming in 2005.
Yeah.
And people stay with it because they see the benefit of that kind of practice. So that's one thing I would like people to know. The other thing I would like people to know is that our program is able to offer high quality therapy for free. Nothing that we do has a charge attached to it. And, that's very important. People who want therapy, mine was 6 visits, including all the other things, occupational therapy, PT, physical therapy.
Yeah.
That's 60 visits. That happens really fast.
So,
it was like Harvey Alter, came to my hospital bed and told my husband that that's what I should do when I got out of the hospital. And, he thought, who is this person? But when we left the hospital, when I was getting, finished at the hospital, he thought, oh my God, what do we do now? And so he remembered the program, and, obviously it's benefited me enormously. And the third thing, besides, it's free. You can get better. And even if you get better very slowly and you're still having quite a difficult time speaking or comprehending what people are saying, what people walk away from IM with is confidence, more confidence.
Yeah.
And more comfort with, like you were saying, you have to know your condition. And people become more able to live their world and live in the world in their normal way. People have a terribly hard time, they get a device. People who have a medium hard time, they just, learn to say to people, could you slow down, please? I can't, it's going too fast for me.
Yeah.
And
that's one of the keys to being aware of your own, what you need
right,
to be successful.
right.
You need to be successful.
And the groups really help people gain that understanding and how to cope with it, and how to let other people know what they need.
Yeah.
Slow down, please, slow down. Repeat that number,
And having a card with you, if, let's say, a police officer should stop you,
right,
you have a card that says, I have aphasia. It's a form of stroke or brain injury, and I need to have you speak slower, and I have to speak slower to understand, or something like that. There are cards out there that people can get with that on it.
Right. And you're right. It's incredibly important. And I used to make them for people, but of course you can get them online. There's, like you said, there's so many available, and it's essential. I mean, one of my friends, he was in a restaurant or a bar, and his wallet was stolen.
Oh.
And so he was trying to find the language to look for his wallet, or, call the police or whatever. And people just thought he was drunk, because he has so much trouble speaking. And of course he was nervous, which makes anybody's trouble speaking.
Another thing you could do is get a dog tag on a chain, and you can get this in a mall. They could make it, and you could have your name on it, and you could have, I have aphasia, or I have had a stroke, trouble speaking or talking, be patient.
Right.
And you could wear it.
Perfect. That's perfect. Very few people have those kind of, what do you call them?
Dog
it's
tag.
A dog tag.
Dog tag, yeah. Very few people have them, but the ones who do are very smart. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because I'm going to remind people that that's available, easy to get or easy to.
And on the other side, there are two sides. One side could say that, the other side could have your emergency information.
Right. Always include that.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down. Doggy cat tag.
Yeah, you could. It's available in the malls, and it's not that expensive.
No.
And if you think about what you want written on it, you could write it down and then take it to the mall, to one of those booths that's in the middle of the mall, and say, can you make this for me? Right. And I want this on the front with my name, and on the back, I would like to have my emergency information. And there, it would say emergency, and then it would have the name, doesn't need the whole name of the person, the first name and the phone number, and maybe the email and whatever.
Right.
And
sometimes the doctor's contact information.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really important thing to do. You can also do it in the dog store, like I make my my dog's cards, at a machine in the
But if you go
store.
to a jeweler, it's going to be a lot more expensive.
But it'll also be higher quality.
It'll be higher quality, that's true. But you can get one or two of them made up Okay,
Yeah.
have a spare and wear it all the time underneath, your clothing.
Right,
And if there's a problem, you just pull it out and
right, right.
you
And
know
some
what?
people have them as things, things
Wristbands.
on a bracelet.
Yeah.
on a bracelet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I sort of forgot about that. It's a really nice thing
Yeah. So
to
we have,
increase confidence.
yes. Yeah, it'll give people confidence, something that
Exactly.
they could, remind them that they, they could just bring it to everybody's attention.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're part of our family now, and I hope that we can help you in any way we can. If you ever need anything, after our telethon, we're going to be putting partners on our website. So I hope that we could put yours on there. So if people need a resource for aphasia, they can always hook up with.
Thank you. That would be great.
And I will always recommend you to everybody I speak to.
Good, because there's always more people who need therapy for their aphasia.
I just want to know, are you available on Zoom anywhere across the country?
Yeah, and across the
Okay.
world.
Okay,
We now
good.
have people from a lot of places that,
That's good.
yeah. When is the telethon?
October
October
3rd.
3rd. October 3rd. I'll send you the information.
Oh, thank you. Coming soon. And we can spread that too.
Yes, yes.
October.
Yeah, we do, we just need to get the awareness out as much as we can. And I'll send you a link, but I'll send you a copy of that video that the art did. It blew me away. It blew me away. And you're more than welcome to come pop into our telethon if you want. You're more than welcome. So if you want to pop in just for a few minutes, just to get the awareness out about your organization, you're always more than welcome.
Just let me know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I got to say that it's been a pleasure to meet you both. And Judy, you've been so helpful over these weeks. You got me through my, I don't know if I want to do this feeling.
I told you would feel like you knew Renee your whole life.
And Renee, it's been a real pleasure to meet you and to learn more about the organization that is your creation. And you're very smart to get Judy to work with you.
Yeah, well, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I tell everybody she's the reason that we've been doing the Stroke of Luck TV show for 7 years.
Wow.
And, and she's also an executive producer for the telethon because she does her work. So,
Great.
And
you're doing great work.
Yeah.
And I really want to learn more about it.
Yeah, we'll love to have you part of our family and partner with you. Anything we can do, when another time we'll talk about how we can help you get the awareness out to stroke patients and stroke organizations and hospitals, and because I know hospitals. I mean, one of the things that I was very astounded with was that the hospital let Harvey in directly to talk to you. Because
he had to work very hard to get that relationship with that hospital.
Yes.
It took, I think, at least 2 years, and then and to run the program.
Definitely.
So that's
and to come into my room is like, oh my God, who are you?
One time,
my husband thought I was.
I'm your savior.
One time I was a part of Sing for Hope. I don't know if you ever heard of Sing for Hope. It's in the city.
Oh, Sing for Hope.
Sing for Hope. And I was at one of the hospitals, I forget which one, and we would go room to room and we would sing and spread joy. But this one time someone had suffered a stroke. So I asked the director if I could bring him some hope personally. So everybody left and I went back in and, said, I know I used to be where you are. I understand it, but look at me, look. I'm here, I'm talking, I'm vibrant, I'm here. So I just wanted to, and it was a blessing that they allowed me the opportunity to do that because, hospitals have to protect themselves. They have to protect themselves. So we'll talk about that at another time, even if it's offline and we Zoom just to chat a little bit. We'd love to work with you. So we have to go.
Off we go.
Wait, we always blow kisses at the end, and then if you could shut your video screens off again while I play a little more after from a distance.
Oh, good.
And yes, yes. And it's me.
And you're singing that, right?
Yes, it's me and a friend of the best background singer in the entire world, Karen Trento, who we're actually going to start working together more frequently. So it's a gift. So thank you so much. We always blow kisses on 3. Thank you so much to the audience. You know, we forget you're there. We're so intrigued with talking amongst ourselves that we forget that everybody's watching us. And we hope that you have learned a little bit more about aphasia and learned the terminology. I remember one of my softball coaches, Barbara, had Facebooked me, and she said to me, Renee, I saw a bumper sticker that said aphasia, and because of your organization, I knew what it was. So, you know, that was a little wink that we're doing what we need to do. Even if it's one person at a time. One person at a time. So we hope you follow us and continue. Don't forget our telethon is on October 3rd. And maybe Carlota will join us. And
Let me know, Carlota.
And here we go. So on 3, we blow kisses. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. See
Bye.
you.
God bless you all.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. Día que caminaste por la puerta, todas las memorias fueron. Mi corazón está vacío, como si tuviera ayer. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír llorar. Usted está en mi sueño por la noche. Por favor, no peleemos. Es tan difícil para mí y para ti. Yo, ¿qué puedo hacer? No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír llorar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír, no me puedes escuchar. Escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír llorar. Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. try.